Hi everybody. Say hi Dublin. This is Dublin and he's gonna behave tonight, not be whiny. And this is Blarney. We all know you want to be famous. Smile. Okay, Joanne from Huckleberries. Today I'm going to show you how to do the crazy Christmas tree table runner. This is a cut loose pattern. We have a whole binder full of these. Different patterns are very inexpensive, so they're quite great. And this is one I did a couple years ago. Really fun, actually. You can see on the pattern though, they have the trees alternating directions. So on a table, that's how you'd want it. This was actually hanging in the store, so I happened to do them this way. So cute over a bed too, or anywhere. Yeah, still on the table. And if you didn't see our other YouTube video, the Hollow Star, or if it's not posted yet, it will be soon. So check that out. It almost just needs binding. Okay. So let's get started. This one uses the Spider Web Ruler by Creative Grids. It's a great ruler. They always come with instructions. And you can see the blocks that you can do with them, so it's not just for this. This is just a really neat project that uses it. So yeah, okay. As you can see on the instructions, they go over what you need. You need 8 to 10 10-inch squares. So 8 10-inch squares, 8 10-inch squares. So that's a 10-inch square, that's a 10-inch square. You don't need a lot of them. So a layer cake definitely is a lot. There's usually about 40 in a layer cake. So we only need 8. I actually bought a little more than 10 inches, 12 inches of all these different fabrics. I've used them now in a quilt that called for layer cakes, and I use them in the cha-cha placemats and table runner, and now I'm using them on this. So it was a good use of fabric. It was like 0.3 of 11 different ones, and I'm getting my full use. I'm going to have just a little bit left over, so that's great. So okay, so these are the 10-inch squares. You want to take those, and then the other thing they need is 11 by 14-inch background. Okay, so there's your 11 by 14. A good variety is nice. You know, if you double up, that's fine. I just went in, I bought some that I had left over from another project that I just did, and I bought a little piece of white for that background, and I took some from my scraps. So it's not a big piece. A fat quarter will certainly do, but yeah, just see what you have in your stash and pull them out. Maybe you might have to buy a couple fat quarters, but do look for what you have. Okay, so in this one, you see my background is quite vary in value. Like that one's quite dark, but it was great because this is a good contrast, the blue and the gray, even though that value is darker. Okay. So with this one, I'm going pretty white, and one is kind of creamy, which is fine. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take this fabric. I have some that are directional, so if you're doing it directional, and I'll just have mine come over on this side, then you do want to have that direction like this. The other thing is for this one, you want to center it. So I'm not measuring with my cutting mat, but I am going to put it on the 10, and then I'm going to bring this over, and there's my 5, so just right in the middle. I'm going to line that up there, and we want this line on the 10 inches. Okay, and then you can see that this tip is not on there. Okay, so once I have this, I'm just going to cut that like this. We remove those, and I'm going to set that aside. And then from these leftovers, so you would do that with all your squares. So I take this other one. This one doesn't matter. It's not directional. I'm just going to line that up in the middle. So I put that center line again on the 15, 20 in the middle of those. And I cut. Okay, so there's 4 trees. And out of the scraps, you need to cut 1.5 by 2.5. So you need 4 of these. You could do them all the same color. This was done with the scraps, just like they said here. So you can see my tree trunks are all different. But I could actually do them with a brown. So I think for this one, I actually might just cut them all and have them all the same brown. But when they ask you to cut 4 of those, you only need 4. So you can either do them same, pick another fabric, or do them out of the leftovers. So these are just going to get set aside. Okay. And then these trees are set aside. My little tree trunks are set aside. And then my next step is I'm going to cut this. So this is 11 by 14. And the first thing I want to do is I want to cut a 3-inch wide strip. This is a 14-inch length, so I'm not cutting it off here. I'm cutting it off here. So it's going to be 3 inches by 11. Okay, so that's 11, 14, and I'm going to cut 3 inches off of there. So there's my 3 inches. Okay. And before I go any further, I'm going to take this 3 inches. I'm going to take my spider ruler and I'm going to put this line, the 6 inches, right here. Now, they want you off a little bit center, so do some like this and some like this. Okay, so I'll just do that a little off center. And then put them in a pile. And they don't have to stay in order. So you can see I have a whole big pile here of them. Okay. And then now of the 14-inch, that's my right side, I'm going to take this again. Now this is 11 inches by 14. So I'm going to set this in the middle again. And what I want to do is it's 11 inches, so 5.5 is the middle. So that's my 10-inch line, that's my 21, 5.5 is in the middle. So I'm going to line that up there, and I'm going to line up my 10-inch again. So you can see with this one, because it's longer, right? It's not a 10-inch square. I'm going to be under that. So I'm going to cut these. So I just go like this and just right off, okay? And then right off. Okay, there we go. Okay, so these will be set aside, and then the next step is that we cut this into sections. So this is our little piece here. We're just going to cut them like this. And this is in the directions too. So we're just going to cut this into the measurements are all in the pattern there. I actually don't need this. Okay. Now, what we want to do next, so that's my next, if I need more, that's another. So you can see I got a white, I got a tone-on-tone white, so a variety of different ones. And then what we want to do is we want to take one of these pieces and sew them onto the side of the tree, and then we're going to iron it. Okay? And how that's going to work is this was my first cut, this was my second cut, so I go in reverse. I'm going to put my second cut back onto this side, and then also this onto this side. But I want to switch these up, so I don't want the same piece on both sides. They're going to be different. So here's one, and then I'm just going to take it over and press it. Okay. So that's that. And then the next step is this guy. So now I'm going to sew this on here. I've already done that. You're going to have a little piece left over here, so you just want to cut that off. You can use a ruler, or you can just go like this. Okay. So, and then we're going to press that. So you can see I'm going to have trees that have different sides, and I'm going to have 8 of those. Then you're going to separate them into 2 piles. So let me just press this for ease. Okay. Okay. Let's get my samples away here. So you'll have 4. I have just 2 right now, but you'll have 4. So what you'll do is you put 4 in each pile. So you have a total of 8, and then we're gonna put them into groups. So there's group A and there's group B. Actually, I would probably go like this just for variety, so I'm not having all red in one group. So in this pile I'll have 4. I only have 2 right now. And this is pile B, and I'd have 4 in there. Okay, so that comes from our 8 10 by 10 squares that we started with. And then on the pattern they have these measurements. So on pattern, on group A, I marked that, and I start from the bottom. So they have 1 measurement there. It's all on there. So I marked that, and I used a Frixion pen that's just going to iron off. I did test it. And then 1 there, and then 1 there. That mark was a little off. And then it also shows you here the other side. And then block B measurements are slightly different. Okay. So what I did is I took the measurements from the pattern. I marked them on group A, and I mark them on group B. So each side is a little different. And then I draw a line, and you can see my lines are there. You don't have to draw the line. I just did it for this sake. But have the markings where you want. Dot, 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 dot. So they are all slightly different. And then what I want to do is I want to line these up as best I can, right? I kind of just make sure the trees are lined up together, and then I'm going to cut them. So if I just had the marks there, I just line up that mark with that mark, and I'm going to cut it. So I would be cutting through 4 trees, and then I'm going to cut it like this. Okay, and then I'm going to cut it like this. So that's group A. Okay. Da, 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 da. And then group B, slightly different measurements, all on the pattern, so I'm going to cut them. And there's group B. I'm just going to move these down. And group A. Now, when I do the next step, I have, I just have this piece of cardboard, but I would bring this over to my sewing machine, which is what I did. You can see I've already started, so they're mucked up. But what you'd want to do is you'd want to take A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. So that's how it's going to be pieced. So I take A. So this is A4 actually, but I'm starting at the bottom. That's how, and then I'm going to sew that to there. Okay, so I center it there. These are pretty even right now, but you want to just center it. It's going to be wonky. Okay, and then you're going to take, I take a different color. So I take this one. This is the next layer. And I take the next layer here and sew it on. And then you're not lining up these edges, you're lining them up so they're centered. Okay. And because I only have 2 layers here, the next layer is going to be the same, but there'd be a 4th layer. And I'd take this and it would go there, and I'd take this one and go there, and then the next one is here. But look how that works out. So the next step after this is, I'm just going to move these back. We're going to have, I don't really need these, so I'm just going to get this a mess. We're getting up to the top, right? And it's too matchy, right? So what I did, you sew it and it actually is okay. It looks like it's going to line up, but because it lines up, it won't line up when you get the seam allowance. But the next step, this would be a tip, like it's like this, is you're going to trim off some of this, and that's the measurement for that is also in here. So you're just cutting off the tip before you put your last tip on. So then we'd sew this last tip on, and there's our tree. Okay. Then what you do, just gonna move this aside. You have this great wonky tree. Then you trim it. So we trim this down to 9 by 14. That's a 14-inch ruler. I happen to have a 14-inch ruler, but you can easily use any ruler. And I would measure like 9. I don't want to cut off that, right? So you can even, you want to make sure that you're not going to trim off. So 9 inches. So there's my 9 inches. I don't want to cut off any of these right there, so I'd trim that off. You could trim it off, like if for some reason it's not going to be 14 inches, you can trim off a little more at the bottom. You want them all to be the same size, so we just trim these down. Isn't that super cute? Yeah. So the next, double being annoying. Okay. Okay. So that's your tree, and you need 4 of them. So you'll have lots. I have lots because of the prep work, but so I could actually make this a longer table runner, which might happen. Okay, now these pieces that we all cut up, those white from the leftover trees and the sections, we're gonna sew them together, and really you just sew them randomly. So I'm gonna sew this to here. They're wider than they have to be. I don't want the same fabric on there. Lots of same fabric. Here's one. So I'd sew this here. Okay, and then I'm gonna sew this here, right? And then if you have some that they're straight on the edge, you can either put them all on the edge at the final run, but just sew a bunch together, and then you're going to trim them to 2.5 inches wide. So they're going to look like this. And then out of that, you're going to cut them into, and this is all in the pattern, you're going to cut enough to do the tree trunks. So I think these are like 2.5 by 4.5, I think. Not sure, but that's in there. So I cut 2 pieces like this, and I sew the trunk in the middle. And then this is going to go in the bottom. So there's your bottom. And then these get trimmed to the length, I think it's 16.5, and they go in the middle. So once I have these all pieced out, those are my sashings, and they just go in between. So there's one on the end and then one in between each tree. So you can see there's one, nothing at the top, the tree trunks. So one here, one here, one here, one here. There you go. And then you sew the trees together. If you want it on the wall, you can do a whole quilt like this, and then they'd all be in the same direction. Or you can do the runner, and I'll probably do that and alternate. And I will make it longer because I have that fabric. Okay. So I hope you guys do one because they're pretty fun. So the directions are all here. I hope that helps you with just a few things. Cutting off the tip and remembering that you're taking, I think one of the big things is one of the things I did want to do initially was take one from here and then this one and then this one and then this one. But you take one here, 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 one here. And that's what makes it a little longer and really wonky. Like me. So, Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you.